The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Hello and a very good afternoon to all News 9 viewers. I'm Neha Bhan. Let's take a look at some of the top stories of this hour. We begin with the war between Israel and Hamas, which has now entered 62nd day. Let's get you the latest update from the war front. Now, Israeli forces and Hamas are engaged in house-to-house battles. Israeli forces are reported to have surrounded the house of Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar. Sinwar, however, is believed to be hiding underground. Israeli forces are also operating in the heart of Khan Younis in the south of Gaza. Israel has approved minimal fuel supply to Gaza. The UN chief has meanwhile invoked Article 99 to force the Security Council to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. 1,207 Palestinians have been killed since truce collapsed last week. Now, Israel says it is closing in on Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar. Sinwar is believed to be the mastermind behind the October 7 attack. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israeli forces have surrounded Sinwar's house. He said it was only a matter of time until he's found. The Israel Defense Forces reported that Sinwar is hiding underground. An advisor to Netanyahu described the operation as a symbolic victory, quote unquote, when asked whether Netanyahu's statement meant Israeli troops were closing in on Sinwar's home. IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari clarified the house of Sinwar is the area of Khan Younis. Sinwar is not above ground, he is underground. Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar meanwhile told a rally in Gaza last year that Hamas would deploy fighters and rockets in a fierce strike on Israel, the nation that imprisoned him for 23 years. On the 7th of October, the deadly Hamas attack on Israel showed his threat was real and not a mere talk.
Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar's speech in Gaza last year was no idle threat.
We will come to you with an endless number of rockets. We will come to you in a flood of soldiers without limit.
It sounded like crowd-pleasing hyperbole. But at this time, a secret plan had already been hatched for an assault on Israel, a country that jailed Sinwar for 23 years before he was freed and rose to the Hamas leadership. October 7 would be the deadliest day in Israel's history, in which the militants killed 1,200 people and took 240 hostages, Israeli tallies say. Israel has retaliated with bombardment and a ground invasion, killing at least 15,000 Palestinians. Sinwar spent half his adult life behind bars in Israel. He was jailed in 1988 for planning the abduction and killing of 2 Israeli soldiers and the murder of 4 Palestinian collaborators. This was the moment he was freed in 2011, one of more than 1,000 Palestinians released for a single Israeli soldier.
This is one of the biggest strategic events in the history of our people's cause in the past years. So we are living a moment of unusual joy.
Sinwar has been leading negotiations for prisoner swaps with hostages, sources say, and it's a personal issue. He has vowed to free all Palestinian prisoners Israel holds. Sinwar is a ruthless man, according to Michael Kubi, a former official for Israel's Shin Bet intelligence agency, who interrogated him for 180 hours in jail. The now 61-year-old militant leader was then in his late 20s, Kubi says, but dedicated to attacking Israel.
Yahya Sinwar was at the prison. He was the chief of the whole Hamas prisoners. They were sitting together, they make discussion inside the prison, of course, and they thought how to fight the Israelis, after they will be released. That was his plan.
Born in the Khan Younis refugee camp, Sinwar rose to prominence as a hardline enforcer. Before jail, he was head of the Al-Majd security apparatus which tracked, killed and punished Palestinians accused of collaborating with Israel. Sources who know him, whether Hamas or Israeli, agree his devotion to the militant movement is extraordinary.
So he told me, the Hamas is my wife, the Hamas is my child, the Hamas for me is everything.
Sinwar is one of Israel's most wanted. This was Israeli Army Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi in October.
The one who decided on this despicable attack was Yahya al-Sinwar, the sovereign of the Gaza Strip. Therefore, he and the whole system under him are as good as dead.
Regional officials say Israel is unlikely to end the war until Sinwar is dead or captured. Two military experts said that would be an important symbolic victory. But achieving it would be long and costly for Israel, with no guarantee of success. Sinwar Mohammed Daif, the mastermind of last month's assault, and a third commander, direct military operations, possibly from bunkers beneath Gaza, Hamas sources have told Reuters. Some tunnels are believed to be 80 meters underground, and Kubi says Sinwar wouldn't give up.
Even he will fight. I'm sure that Yahya Sinwar wouldn't leave the Gaza Strip.
Israeli forces are carrying out house-to-house searches for Hamas terrorists in Khan Younis, Gaza's second biggest city. The IDF claimed it had carried out airstrikes on about 250 targets in the Gaza Strip during the past day, while Hamas claimed it killed 10 Israeli soldiers in Khan Younis and injured several others. The United Nations reported a significant increase of Israeli bombardments of Gaza since Monday afternoon, accompanied by intense ground fighting and an increase in Hamas rocket attacks targeting Israel. Amid the escalating conflict on Wednesday, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres invoked a rarely used clause in the UN Charter to raise the issue on his own initiative before the Security Council, emphasizing that the intensifying conflict may exacerbate existing threats to international peace and security. We're facing a severe risk of collapse of the humanitarian system, he wrote in a letter to the Council. The situation is fast deteriorating into a catastrophe with potentially irreversible implications for Palestinians as a whole and for peace and security in the region. Hundreds of thousands of Gazans continue to flee to the west and south of Khan Younis, including to Rafah. However, as per the United Nations, shelters in these areas were far beyond capacity, forcing the displaced Palestinians to sleep in the streets or in empty lots. The Israeli army released a video on Wednesday showing what it claims airstrikes on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. Since this morning, IDF tanks and artillery have been striking several locations in Lebanon, and IDF aircraft struck a military command center and military infrastructure belonging to the Hezbollah terrorist organization, the Israeli army said. Israel and the heavily armed Lebanese group Hezbollah have been exchanging fire across the Lebanese-Israeli border since the start of the war on the 7th of October. The Israeli army on Wednesday released videos showing ground troops operating in Gaza and aerial strikes on Hamas targets a day after the IDF reached Khan Younis in southern Gaza. The footage shows soldiers engaging in combat in residential area, armored vehicles moving and tanks firing ammunition. A video filmed inside a classroom showed soldiers revealing what they say was an explosive device that was placed inside a school. Aerial footage shows strikes on what the Israeli army said were Hamas terrorists and command centers. Facing a huge wave of criticism over his failure to prevent the shock Hamas infiltration of Israel on the 7th of October, Netanyahu has largely avoided the limelight while conducting a two-front war, one against Hamas and the other for his own political survival. Political experts are saying that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has no strategy for the war and beyond but to remain in power. Residents on the streets of Jerusalem said the moment marked the end of Netanyahu's career, with some calling for his immediate resignation and others wanting his tenure to finish after the war. Netanyahu has long maintained an image as a security hawk, tough on Iran and backed by an army that ensured Jews would never again suffer a Holocaust. The attack saw Palestinian Hamas gunmen enter from Gaza, killing 1,200 people, abducting 240 more and engulfing the country in war.
I think that what the war has shown us for nearly 2 months now is that really Netanyahu has no strategy but remaining in power. It's been almost 2 months and Netanyahu has not truly outlined the day after in any substantial detail. The only thing that we see now is a prime minister who is keen on retaining his office as a premier. Beyond that, there is no vision, neither for Israel or for what will happen with the Palestinians. What we have seen on October 7 is the exact result of Netanyahu's divide and rule strategy. What he was trying to do for 30 years now is basically to divide between the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, between the Palestinian Authority and the PLO and Hamas and other radical organizations, and effectively favoring the radical organization over the more moderate, in exact opposite to every other Israeli leaders, whether right-wing or left-wing. And Netanyahu has done that not in order to further Israel's security, but in order to further his own personal power.
I think that Netanyahu should step down already. He's the one responsible for what's going on today. And the war is proceeding according to what they wanted to do. But I think it should be led by people who are not that involved with what happened in the catastrophe of October 7th.
The United States would object to any proposed buffer zone inside the Gaza Strip, as it would violate Washington's position that the size of the Palestinian enclave must not be reduced after the current conflict. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller reiterated on Palestine's territorial integrity.
The Secretary made very clear in a speech he gave several weeks ago in Tokyo, where he laid out the principles that the United States supports when it comes to the end of this conflict in Gaza. One of those principles was that there must be no reduction in the size of Gaza. And that remains our position, and it will remain our position. So if any proposed buffer zone was inside Gaza, that would be a violation of that principle, and it's something that we oppose. If it's with respect to something in Israeli territory, I won't speak to that. That's a decision for the Israelis to make. But we're very clear that when it comes to reduction in the size of Gaza, that's not something the United States.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned the Security Council of a global threat from the Gaza war on Wednesday. He told the Council in a letter that the Gaza war may aggravate existing threats to international peace and security. Guterres invoked Article 99 of the founding UN Charter that allows him to bring to the attention of the Security Council any matter which, in his opinion, may threaten the maintenance of international peace and security. UN spokesperson there said the article has not been used for decades. Listen in.
The Secretary General has today delivered a letter to the President of the Security Council invoking Article 99 of the Charter of the United Nations. This is the first time that Antonio Guterres has done this since he became Secretary General in 2017. Article 99 states, and I quote, that the Secretary General may bring to the attention of the Security Council any matter in his opinion that may threaten the maintenance of international peace and security. In the letter, which has been shared with you, the Secretary General urges the members of the Security Council to press to avert a humanitarian catastrophe, and he appeals for a humanitarian ceasefire to be declared.
Switching our focus now, Saudi Arabia has urged the United States to exercise restraint in responding to Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea. Riyadh is concerned about the spillover from the Hamas-Israel conflict as the Iran-aligned Houthis have joined the regional turmoil by targeting vessels and firing drones and missiles at Israel. The Houthis claim their actions support the Palestinians and vow to continue until Israel ceases its offensive on the Gaza Strip. Riyadh, the major oil exporter, is alarmed by Houthi missiles flying over its territory and seeks to avoid further escalation by advising Washington on restraint, expressing satisfaction with the current US approach. Russian President Vladimir Putin is in Abu Dhabi, the first leg of his rare blitz Gulf tour. Now, the visit marked a rare foreign trip for Putin since the International Criminal Court issued a warrant for his arrest for alleged war crimes committed in Ukraine. The host nation staged a lavish welcome ceremony with jets flying over the city, leaving contrails in colors of Russian flag. Camel and horse cavalry guards lined the route of Putin's motorcade from the airport to the presidential palace. Russian President Vladimir Putin highlighted the exceptional state of relations between Russia and the United Arab Emirates during a meeting with UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. It is noteworthy that with this rare visit, Putin has made an effort to counter President Joe Biden's attempt to isolate Russia globally amid allegations of war crimes.
Today, thanks to your position, our relations have reached an unprecedented high level. Indeed, the United Arab Emirates is Russia's main trading partner in the Arab world. We cooperate internationally. The United Arab Emirates makes a huge contribution to stabilizing the situation in the world by being a non-permanent member of the Security Council.
The Russian president is strategically rebuilding ties in West Asia, a region traditionally aligned with the United States. Putin's rare visit to the Middle East, focusing on global oil markets, the Israel-Hamas conflict, and the Ukraine war, aims to demonstrate that Biden's efforts have not succeeded. By engaging with key US allies such as the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, Putin seeks to challenge the narrative of Russia's isolation over the Russia-Ukraine war. Russian legislators have scheduled the 2024 presidential election for the 17th of March, potentially propelling Vladimir Putin towards a fifth term. Despite not yet confirming his candidacy, Putin is widely anticipated to announce his intentions soon, leveraging constitutional reforms, granting him the chance for 2 additional terms beyond his current tenure. By now, the Putin majority has long since been taken as a given, and no one talks about it anymore. Nonetheless, Putin still needs elections. This could extend his rule until 2036. Amidst ongoing global concerns and the backdrop of a persistent war, new dynamics emerge, altering the landscape for both Putin and the Russian Republic. During the initial half of the Republican presidential debate, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis repeatedly targeted foreign UN Ambassador Nikki Haley to diminish her momentum before the Iowa nominating contest. Both contenders aim to position themselves as the primary alternative to former President Donald Trump, who continues to lead in polls ahead of the Jan 15 Iowa contest. The debate, featuring Vivek Ramaswamy and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, featured personal attacks alongside discussions on the Ukraine war, Israel-Hamas conflict, and the US southern border. After engaging in a heated 2-hour debate, Republican presidential candidates paid a visit to the spin room with the media. Nikki Haley, gaining in poll numbers, addressed being targeted by rivals Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy, who labelled her corrupt. The post-debate dynamics suggest intensified competition and differing perspective within the Republican field. Former Governor Chris Christie, critical of the debate's timidity, took aim at DeSantis Ramaswamy for being too timid to take on the front-runner Trump, while expressing concerns about the Trump's qualifications and electability.
At this stage in 2015, Ben Carson was ahead by 10 points in Iowa, and Ted Cruz was at 7.
But as you know better than everybody else, this is not 2016. You've got functionally an incumbent president you're trying to change people's minds about.
He was significantly more popular in 2016 than he is today, and that's a fact.
He's also
he
more well-known.
He was an unknown quantity. Now, he was just as well-known back then. Just as well-known. The guy was on network television for 10 years. Come on. He had one of the top-rated shows on TV. We knew less about Donald Trump back then than we know today, and everything we've learned about him in the last 7 years makes him less qualified, less fit, and less electable. And where was me up there? I finally got a chance. You know, after a while, you know, when the stage is that big, you know, you got to make a decision about whether you want to keep interrupting all the time. But tonight, the stage was smaller, it was more manageable, and I told all you guys, there's only one prosecutor on that stage. You saw me prosecute the case against each one of them tonight, and that's exactly the way I'll prosecute the case against Joe Biden next November, and that's why I'm going to be president in 25.
Peru's former authoritarian leader Alberto Fujimori was freed from prison following a humanitarian pardon granted by the country's highest court, despite the Inter-American Court of Human Rights urging a delay in his release. Now appearing frail and masked, the 85-year-old was greeted by his lawyer and 2 children, a prominent, Keiko Fujimori, a prominent political figure. Now, Fujimori was convicted in 2009 of ordering the massacre of 25 people in 1991 and 1992, while his government fought the shining path.
Sí, él va al medio.
Deja acercarte, pa.
Seguimos luchando.
Gracias, gracias. Gracias.
Ya. Avanza, avanza.
Y hoy finalmente tenemos a nuestro padre en casa.
Today we finally have our father home. As you know, his health is poor. To us, family is the most important thing. At this moment, we have to take care of him and make him recover bit by bit. Without a doubt, his best therapy will be his family's love.
Que poco a poco se recupere. Y sin duda sabemos que para él su mejor terapia es el amor de su familia.
Held in the major oil producer, the United Arab Emirates, the key question at this year's UN climate talks, COP28, is whether the final agreement will include a decision to phase down oil and gas. Take a look.
The issue at the heart of COP28 in Dubai is whether it will be the first UN climate conference to produce a global agreement to phase out fossil fuels. They're the biggest cause of climate change, and fossil fuels still produce around 80% of the world's energy. Here's a look at who's pushing for a deal. Norway, the US, Canada, Chile, Colombia, and some African nations, including Kenya and Ethiopia, are among the 80 countries seeking a deal. The European Union is also on board. Here's Climate Commissioner Wopke Hoekstra.
I want this COP to mark the beginning of the end for fossil fuels. This is a key part for the EU and for of our negotiating mandates, meaning that all 27 European member states want this to be part of the negotiated outcome.
Opposition to a fossil fuel phase-out is led by Russia, Saudi Arabia, and China, diplomats said. Representatives of some African nations have said they could support a phase-out deal if wealthy countries agree to quit first. Uganda's energy minister said a deal could be acceptable if it allowed developing nations to exploit their resources in the near term. Asking the country to stop using fossil fuels, she said, was like asking Uganda to stay in poverty. Diplomats and observers told Reuters that some countries, like Saudi Arabia and China, have consistently raised the issue of equity at the talks, emphasizing the high historical contribution of wealthy nations to climate change. But some said they doubted whether these nations would support a deal even if the equity issue was addressed. Another sticking point is whether the deal should allow for continued consumption if emissions are captured or abated. Diplomats say Saudi Arabia, a top oil producer, wants this kind of deal. But the tech is expensive and not used at scale. The UN's climate science panel says it sees a limited role for carbon capture to zero out the world's emissions by 2050. The US and EU support a COP28 deal that recognizes these technologies with limits. Irish Climate Minister Eamon Ryan says it can help in some sectors.
There will be a small amount abated in hard-to-reach sectors, cement, steel, other areas, but that can't be a get-out-of-jail card for international fossil fuel companies, cover for kind of technological wish that, we're going to invent this new technology to eat up all the carbon.
The UN's climate science panel says steep fossil fuel cuts are needed to avert more severe climate change.
Amidst ongoing toxic smog in Lahore, once framed as the city of gardens, a surge in pediatric patients has flooded a public hospital's emergency room. Parents cradle nebulizers and enveloping their children's faces in medicinal steam to elevate respiratory distress caused by the city's severe air pollution. Health authorities note a staggering 50% increase in pediatric cases linked to worsening air quality over the past month. Let's hear what exactly is going on in Lahore from health experts.
Smog these days is affecting a lot of children, particularly the school-going age is most likely affected with that. These children present with complaint of cough, night exacerbations of cough, early morning cough. Apart from that, they have nasal discharge, rhinorrhea, they are having breathing difficulties. If our OPD was, for instance, of 10,000 in the last month, from them, like around 6,000 to 7,000 a patient presented to us with a complaint of upper respiratory tract or lower respiratory tract infection. Right. So it has increased a lot, the numbers have.
Our pediatric hospitals, they are overwhelmed with burden from the respiratory issues. In any case, the most common cause of infant mortality, obviously we are struggling to meet sustainable development goals here. The neonatal mortality is mainly driven from gastrointestinal disease and then respiratory disease.
Previously, we used to see that, the preeclampsia or the increased blood pressure that was mostly associated, it had a seasonal variation with hot or weather or summers. But now we're also seeing that more cases of, hypertension are coming in winters as well. So we were, a bit like concerned, like how is this? There is a shift of, high risk of hypertension in winters. Why is it so? So one of the explanation can be that smog could be causing it.
Moving on now, Revanth Reddy has taken oath as the next Chief Minister of Telangana following his party's victory in the recently held assembly elections. Revanth is the first Congress Chief Minister of Telangana.
అనే నేను
యనమల రేవంత్ రెడ్డి అనే నేను శాసనం ద్వారా నిర్మితమైన భారత రాజ్యాంగం పట్ల నిజమైన విశ్వాసం విధేయత చూపుతానని భారతదేశ సార్వభౌమాధికారాన్ని సమగ్రతను కాపాడుతానని తెలంగాణ రాష్ట్ర ముఖ్యమంత్రిగా నా కర్తవ్యాన్ని శ్రద్ధతో అంతఃకరణ చిత్తశుద్ధితో నిర్వహిస్తానని భయం గాని పక్షపాతం గాని రాగద్వేషాలు గాని లేకుండా రాజ్యాంగాన్ని శాసనాలను అనుసరించి ప్రజలందరికీ న్యాయం చేకూరుస్తానని దైవ సాక్షిగా ప్రమాణం చేస్తున్నాను.
అనే నేను
రేవంత్ రెడ్డి అనే నేను తెలంగాణ రాష్ట్ర ముఖ్యమంత్రిగా నా పరిశీలనకు వచ్చిన లేదా నాకు తెలియవచ్చిన ఏ విషయాన్ని నా కర్తవ్యాలను సక్రమంగా నిర్వహించేందుకు అవసరమైన మేరకే తప్ప ప్రత్యక్షంగా గాని పరోక్షంగా గాని ఏ వ్యక్తికి లేదా వ్యక్తులకు తెలియపరచనని లేదా వెల్లడించనని దైవ సాక్షిగా ప్రమాణం చేస్తున్నాను.
A sea of people arrived to witness the swearing-in ceremony of the 56-year-old leader that was held at sprawling Lal Bahadur Shastri Stadium. Mallu Bhatti Vikramarka was also sworn in as the Deputy Chief Minister. C. Damodar Kotima Reddy, Venkat Reddy and D. Sridhar Babu also took oath as ministers. Uttam Kumar Reddy among 8 others also took oath as ministers. Various senior leaders including AICC President Mallikarjun Kharge, Sonia Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi also attended Reddy's swearing-in ceremony. Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and his deputy D.K. Shivkumar also attended the event. D.K. Shivkumar spoke with the media and thanked the people of Telangana while assuring the party will implement the guarantees that the party promised. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also took to platform X, formerly Twitter, and congratulated Revanth Reddy Garu on taking oath as the Chief Minister of Telangana. He said, "I assure all possible support to further the progress of the state and the welfare of its citizens." It's day 3 of the hearing on Section 6A of the Citizenship Act in the Apex Court. Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud has raised questions about the selective application of Section 6A of the Citizenship Act to Assam, pointing out that West Bengal, with a larger border with Bangladesh, might face similar or more significant challenges. The Constitution Bench, led by CJI, requested an updated affidavit from the government outlining steps taken to secure the India-Bangladesh border. Chandrachud emphasized the need for the borders, impermeable borders, asking the government about investments, executive measures and the extent of fencing. The CJI also inquired about the government's approach to illegal immigration in West Bengal, questioning the extent and measures taken.
Most important, why did you single out Assam when we found yesterday that West Bengal shares a much larger border with Bangladesh, and therefore, presumably, the extent of illegal migration into West Bengal would be as or even more significant Or did we have any cogent data to indicate that the extent of illegal migration into West Bengal was minimal as compared to this? Therefore, we left it alone.
No, my lord, we don't have. And this is the answer which I am going to give, my lord.
Now, what my lord is saying is that now, after Assam, this illegal immigrant will get into more and more they get into West Bengal now.
Absolutely.
What is going to see? Therefore, we want to know how do you propose to deal with this? At least after 71, after 71.
And Mr. Solicitor, there are a couple of, we have to look at it at different layers. First, there is a layer of legality, that we deal with these illegal immigrants who are here with due process of law, because we are not some authoritarian country that you just pick them up and treat them, and show the power.
The process is the tribunal.
We have to follow process of law because we are a democratic country governed by the rule of law.
Correct.
And there's a grave danger that you might actually pick up. If you don't follow the rule of law, genuine people may be picked up and thrown out. That's something we must also.
Yes.
But more important than also, what are we doing from here
onwards
for the future? What is the government of India doing in terms of ensuring that you have an impermeable border? How much investment is the government of India taking into ensuring that the border becomes, in that sense, impermeable?
Lord, I understand.
What are the executive steps which the government of India is taking? Lord, to what extent has the border been fenced? We understand that the terrain is impossible to be fenced also. But what are the steps we want to know? Because this is a crucial problem, independent of 6A.
1126, my lord, may give some answer, my lord. Lord, this is again as of 2014. This is regarding border fencing, my lord, Justice Suryakant's query, my lord. Lord, apropos, my lord, yes, my lord, that is given, my lord, in the affidavit, my lord. Yes, my lord. What is the process? What is the procedure followed? That is undertaken, my lord. That is undertaken. They are being subjected to the Foreigners Tribunal jurisdiction. The data, my lord, we will provide.
As Government of India, does Government of India have data? And Mr. Solicitor, we understand the problems of all this as well. Because culturally, you're dealing with people who look exactly like you, they speak the same language, they dress the same way.
No.
What is the data with the government? What is the extent of the illegal immigration post 71?
My lord, I'll just, my lord, point out.
Do we have that data?
No, this is my answer, my lord, not the government's answer, my lord, because I could not, my lord, get it from the record. So far as Bengal is concerned, my lord, the general discussion which I have with the officials is that Assam faced the problem and raised it at a level for the simple reason that culturally, Bangladeshis and Assamese were so different that it was easy to identify. In case of Bangladesh, their language, their food habits, their dressing, everything, they mingle very easily, number one. Number two, because of that, maybe there is no uproar or something. But that does not justify the government not taking steps. I must admit.
Their Solicitor General Tushar Mehta assured the court of submitting an affidavit promptly. Additionally, Mehta referenced prior Supreme Court judgments supporting geographical classification based on historical justifications for unequal laws. Now the legal proceedings delve into critical issues surrounding border security and immigration challenges. Moving on, Google unveiled Gemini, its latest AI model designed to emulate human behavior more effectively than previous models. Gemini excels in tasks such as comprehension, summarization, reasoning, coding, and planning. Available in 3 versions, Pro, Ultra, and Nano. Its Pro version is already out, with the Ultra version set for an early release next year. Currently, Google has integrated the new Gemini Pro with its chatbot Bard, which is a direct competitor of ChatGPT. Users can have a text-based interaction with Gemini-powered Bard, but Google has promised support for other modalities, quote-unquote, soon. The new update is available in 170 countries and territories, but it is limited to English. Senator Ron Wyden cautioned that unnamed governments are monitoring smartphone users through app push notifications. Wyden's letter to the Department of Justice highlighted foreign officials' demands for data from Google and Apple, revealing a concerning avenue for governments to track smartphones. Push notifications, commonly used by various apps to alert users about messages or updates, often go through Google and Apple's servers, a fact many users are unaware of. Apps of all kinds rely on push notifications to alert smartphone users to incoming messages, breaking news and other updates. These are the audible dings or visual indicators users get when they receive an email or their sports teams win a game. What users often do not realize is that almost all such notifications travel over Google and Apple's servers. Wyden called on the Justice Department to repeal or modify any policies that impede this transparency. Now, Ron Wyden, the senator, they are cautioning the unnamed governments, saying that, in fact, they are monitoring smartphone users through app push notification. Now, the big question is, are the governments spying on Apple and Google users? Wyden's letter to the Department of Justice highlighted foreign officials' demands for data from Google and Apple, revealing a concerning avenue for governments to track smartphones. Iran sent up a rocket with a test living space capsule on Wednesday, the semi-official Tasneem news agency reported, as the country pressed on with plans to send astronauts into space. The announcement came 10 years after Iran announced it had sent 2 live monkeys into space and brought them back safely. NASA officials and ISS crew members celebrated the 25th anniversary of the International Space Station with a live talk between astronauts in space and the officials at the Johnson Space Center. NASA Associate Administrator Bob Cabana listed the significant achievements since the ISS was first launched, highlighting the 3,000 research and educational investigations carried out by 108 countries, according to NASA. Cabana expressed his admiration for the crew's work in conducting scientific investigations aimed at improving life on Earth and preparing humanity for further space exploration. The ISS mission commander also reflected on his experience of the unique challenge of weightlessness in space and the fascinating range of experiments conducted on board. Morgensen expressed hope that more countries and private companies would get involved in utilizing a laboratory in low Earth orbit.
I cannot believe it was 25 years ago today that we grappled Zarya and joined it with the Unity node. Absolutely amazing. And when you think of all that's been accomplished on ISS in the last 25 years, 3,000 research and educational investigations from 108 countries around the world. You know, we really appreciate what you guys are doing up there, all the science, the investigations to make life better here on Earth and prepare us for exploring beyond our home planet as we go back to the moon with Artemis and on to Mars.
Well, weightlessness, you know, that is something that is truly unique up here. There is unfortunately no way to train weightlessness on Earth. We can get a taste of it on a parabolic flight, but it's just not the same as actually living and working in weightlessness up here. And it's not just fun, but it's also very challenging.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. We leave you with the picture of the day.
Delhi has the fastest growing metro network among G20 nations.